Boop. Are we live?
Yeah.
Yay. He booped. We're live. Hi. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday. It is sun shining today, thank heavens. But apparently not for long. We're in for another snowstorm, from what I gathered.
You see sunshine.
I see sunshine on a cloudy day. No,
It's gray.
it's not gray. I see sunshine.
It is gray out there.
I see sunshine.
It is complete overcast today.
I see sunshine.
You're weird.
Yeah, whatever.
Hence the glasses.
Hence the glasses. Yeah, yeah, it's sunshiny.
Okay.
Okay, it might just be like a single spot, and it's
beaming. Right
it's
onto
beaming, not on me, but on the neighbor's house. I can see it from here. It's pretty. It's sunshiny.
A single sunray.
A single one. Ta-da!
Yeah.
No. I am a ray of sunshine today. You can be a gloomy Gus all you want. I am a ray of sunshine today. We're going to have some fun today. We're painting Rise and Shine. I did. I rose and shone. I'm still shining.
Coffee.
He needs more coffee. There's not nearly enough caffeine to motivate him today. So
I work tomorrow.
he's working tomorrow and he's a little down in the mouth. We'd like to have a day off. I guess the last 3 doesn't count. We're going to. Today's 3. Today's 3. Hello.
And I'm working.
Yes, you are. You're welcome. I'm going to duct tape him to the chair so he stays put. Anyway, we have Happy Mail today. I was so excited. I had one of those ADHD moments this week. I was trying to decide on what we were going to do for little giveaways that because we're always tucking little things into orders when we ship them. I always like to have some little wee gifty tucked in there. It just, I don't know. It makes me happy when I open a parcel and I find some little doodad that I wasn't expecting. It just makes my day. And I'm always looking for some fun little thing that I can stick into orders and whatnot. And it hit me like a ton of bricks with the Easter season coming, that it would be fun to do just a little Easter pin. And then I got a little carried away. This is where the ADHD thing comes in. I got a little carried away. So what started out as being one cute little pin ended up being 4 cute little pins. So we have little eggs with flowers. We have eggs with paintbrushes. We have bunnies, and then we have bunnies with eggs, and then we have eggs with little tiny bunnies. So I've got a bunch of little pins. So I've been on the hunt for those little pin backs. And I found these, and I don't know what excited me more. The fact that there's 100 little pin backs in here, or that it came in this fun little case instead of one of those stupid plastic bags. These are really cute, and they were inexpensive. I think they were $6.99 for 100 little pin backs. So now I've got enough for 100 more pin kits, 200 more pin kits. And now I have to buy more bunnies. So, see what I mean? It's been one of those weeks. So I got those off of Amazon. They were $6.99 for 100 pin backs. They're just lever back pin backs, pretty straightforward. They glue on really easily. And for a couple hundred of them, $16, I'm a happy camper. They're not that easy to find. The other thing that I got this week, I got a shipment of stuff in from Southern Ridge Trading. I had ordered a bunch more cattle tags and some more horses and some more bumblebees because they never seem to stay here. So I had to get some more. And Karen, God love her, she's created these. I don't know if this is going to show up on camera or not. Let me do it this way. Beautiful dragonflies, bumblebees, and butterflies. Little embellishments on there. She didn't mark a price on them. They're absolutely gorgeous. So she sent me a set of those. We're going to set those aside for a little giveaway later on. And then she's also added these, which I thought were really fun. Palm trees. So ideal for doing card making, for mixed media, all sorts of things, assemblage, things like that. Gorgeous laser cut designs. Just gorgeous. So if you're looking for really great embellishments, really fun surfaces, go and check out chipboard.ca. She ships all over the place. Her stuff is amazing and very clever, beautifully detailed stuff. I got like 500 snowflakes this week. I'm so excited. Now I'm playing with snowflakes because we're still winter here. So somebody posted on Facebook today that her azaleas are blooming. Miss Linda. She had beautiful photographs of the azaleas in her backyard. First of all, azaleas here are stubby little creatures. They're like this big. They come in a pot. They only see them at Mother's Day and then they die because they just don't do anything here. They freeze to death in mid-June. So we don't do azaleas here. Love them. They're beautiful. She's got banks of them in her backyard and it's March. It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind because we have 4 feet of snow in the backyard. It'll be at least 3 months before we can even get out there to cut grass. So.
And a paraplegic that wants to play in it.
Exactly. She wants to go ripping through the snow. Well, when you only got 2 front legs that work, that's not going to go well.
4 feet of snow and a dog with an obsession with snow.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. She does love snow. She likes to roll around in it. She'll eat it on the way in and out of the house. She stops, and even though you're trying to get her in the house, she will drag you halfway across the lawn to get a mouthful of snow, which is always interesting. So, yeah, that was my Happy Mail this week. I sent out a whole bunch of Happy Mail this week. We had the membership group there had their prizes for the study challenges, the study and for the challenges. Those prizes went out this week. We had a bunch of orders go out as well. And I sent out some more Happy Mail because there was a few people that had just done some really nice things for other painters and for other crafters. And so I thought that they deserved a little bit of Happy Mail too. So I sent some of that out. And we're going to be sending out some more Happy Mail this week because we have some really awesome giveaways this week. Really awesome. So you know that I've been playing with the Dynasty water lily brushes for the last few weeks. And I'm really enjoying them. Really liking these brushes quite a bit. And so the giveaway this week, I have 3 sets of Dynasty water lily brushes. We've got a beautiful 3 brush set. Plus we got an art stuff bag for each of them. So we've got 3 of those to give away this week. If you're going to slap a dollar value on it, about $35, which is not bad. So we have 3 really nice little giveaways with some 3 brush sets of Dynasty water lily. You're going to love them. I've fallen in love with them. I wasn't all that sure at first, but I've fallen in love with them. They're a really nice, very soft brush. Designed for watercolor. I've been using them with acrylic and oh my goodness, they're wonderful. So you're going to love these. So again, 3 sets of Dynasty water lily going out to 3 of you today. So, oh, and an art stuff bag. There's always goodies stuffed in our art stuff bag. So that is our giveaway for today. And for painting today, we're going to be doing our Rise and Shine, which is that fun chicken. Where's my chicken? Not chicken, Rooster. Rise and Shine.
Okie dokie.
I like this one, but I have a thing for roosters.
They called you out on it, eh?
On what?
Because you said you did it before.
I know. Well, actually, I thought I did it before. And then somebody said they couldn't find the video, so I went looking for the video. And then realized that I couldn't find the video. How come I couldn't find the video? Because we hadn't done it yet. So,
Ta-da!
ta-da! I had to go through like 200 and some videos, but only to discover that we have not done it yet. For some reason, I thought we had, but we hadn't.
I guess we're doing the chicken.
So we're painting a rooster today.
Chicken.
This is a fun one. This is a fun one. I think you're going to enjoy it. So if you guys are ready to get started playing and paint, so am I. It's So this is the guy we're painting today. I love this one. I love roosters. I have like a minor obsession with roosters.
Minor?
Yeah.
Should be classified as clinical.
It's a minor obsession. I have one in almost every room in the house.
There is one in every room.
No, there's none in Dad's bathroom. There's no rooster in there, I think. No, there isn't. No. But there are roosters everywhere else. There's no rooster in your room.
Yes, there is.
Where?
Bedside table.
Oh, right. The little wrought iron one. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Minor obsession with roosters.
Do you need an intervention?
No. No, I don't. I do not need an intervention. Medical assistance, perhaps, but not an intervention. I can't believe it, but I don't have my Surface. I have a prepped Surface, but not the one we're demoing. I'll get it. I'll get it. I'll get it. Okay, you ever have one of those days? I'm having one of those days. I have a Surface all prepped for today, but I still have to get through the first couple of steps. So I'm going to grab some paint. I'm working with Royal Navy today, mainly because I am out of Prussian blue and I cannot for the life of me find any. So I had to order some and it's not here yet. So we're going to have to make do with Royal Navy, which is fine because all we really need is a nice dark blue. Now, the base coat for this is really simple. We're going to use one of my fugly brushes. You can use a fugly brush, you can use a chip brush, you can use a big old flat wash brush if you want to, but we're going to put a base coat of that dark blue on this surface, and I'm going to put it on vertically so that all the brush strokes run in one direction. Just like so. And we're going to have the entire surface covered. Neatness doesn't really count for this. It doesn't matter if it's absolutely perfect. We're going to be doing a distressed finish to this anyway, so perfection is to be avoided at all costs. Now, whenever you're doing a background like this, especially for something that's going to be heavily distressed or moderately distressed, I like putting my paint on in one direction because it creates a little bit of pattern. Subtle as it may be, it does create some pattern. So we're going to have some brush marks that run vertically in this finish. Doesn't matter how smooth or how rough it is. We just want those brush marks to be all running in the same direction. Comme ça. So it's going to be subtle, and that's okay. Grab my handy dandy drying tool here. I love this thing. I have a new one coming. This one has been dropped one too many times, and so it tends to get extremely hot. I think I may have done some damage to the thermostat in here, and so if I run it too long, it gets really hot. So not exactly trustworthy at this point, but that's my own fault because I have dropped it so many times. So for this base coat, we're going to be using this. This is a chicken wire stencil, and you can tell that this one has seen a lot of love recently because it has not been cleaned, and it's almost perfectly opaque because of all of the paint I have put on it. So I'm going to line this up just so that the whole surface is going to have some pattern on it. And I'm going to tape this in place just with a little bit of painter's tape, just so that it doesn't shift around too much. And I'm going to use my Dynasty Stencil Pro stencil brush. That's the synthetic one. Again, this one has been well loved, you can tell. And the color I'm using is Cobblestone. You could use buttermilk, you could use warm white, you could use a shade of gray if you wanted to. I went with Cobblestone for a very simple reason. One, I didn't want it to be too high contrast. which I found the white was a little too bright. So I went with the cobblestone. Gives me a nice contrast, but it's a bit more subdued. And that's what I wanted. So we're going to use a little bit of cobblestone. And let me show you. I know you guys are probably tired of hearing this at this point, but that's okay. I'm going to load my stencil brush by picking up a little bit of that cobblestone on one side. And then I load the brush by going in a circular fashion and then change directions. And what I end up with is a nice even distribution of paint. And then I'm just going to remove the excess by scumbling a little bit on a piece of shop towel or paper towel. Then hold the stencil brush straight up and down, and you're going to work in a circular fashion and change directions frequently. I know I sound like a broken record, but I promise you, if you use this method, you're going to have a much better result when it comes to your stenciling. So you just keep going in a circular fashion, change directions frequently. We're not looking for perfectly opaque, but we are looking for reasonably good coverage. You want to get some color in there, but it doesn't have to be opaque. Now, having that piece of tape in place down there just saves us from having the stencil shift and having to realign it. And then when you find that you're not getting enough color, just reload and then come back in. So as I said, we are not looking for perfection. We just want to have the pattern filled. But it doesn't have to be perfectly opaque. There we go. That looks all right. So I'm going to remove that. And then I'm going to move the stencil over and down and align it up reasonably well. And I'm going to tape it in place. And then I'm just going to quickly finish out the remaining parts of this stencil, like so. Just so that we have pattern over the entire background. Now, when I'm positioning a stencil, I always position it so that the design goes off the surface. I never try to fit it all perfectly within the shape, because then it looks like you just cut out the shape of the surface, and it loses something. It doesn't have the same continuity. So I'm going to realign my stencil. See if I can make this look any more difficult. Here we go. Oops. There. And just got this little bit here to do. Now, that circular thing, changing directions frequently, it just allows you to distribute the paint more evenly throughout the pattern. And that way you don't get build up at the edge of the stencil and you don't get bleeding underneath. So we've got a nice chicken wire pattern laid out here. And now we're going to sand this a little bit just to distress it. I like to wear it out a little bit. Now, I've got my favorite. I love these flexible sanding sponges. These are really good. I'm going to make sure that that paint is dry before I do this so I don't smear it everywhere. Now, we're going to wear this out a little bit and soften it so that we have a nice finish. So here is our sanding sponge. Now, remember, we put the paint on vertically, so we're going to sand the same way. So back and forth like this. You just want to wear through this a little bit.
Who did that?
Who did what?
Who did this? Jessica Killeran. Kicking off the glitter fund for the day with $40.
Nice. Very nice.
The glitter
Thank you.
fund.
The glitter fund. I think that's a great name for it.
Weeks of glitter in my beard.
Yes.
What are you writing down?
I'm just making a note to myself.
What are you conspiring to do?
I'm not conspiring anything. I'm just keeping track. Women don't conspire. We plot. There's a difference. So, vertically,
Oh, it's Jackson's birthday today.
yes, it is. Jackson has a birthday party today. So, all I've done is just wear through that stencil pattern a little bit. If it disappears in places, that's okay too. So, now I'm going to take my little piece of shop towel here and I'm going to wipe off the dust. Like so. And then I'm going to take my fugly brush, just wet with some water in it. And I'm going to just brush over top of that. And that just brings all that dark color back. And it will look fine when it's completely dry. And I'll dry this. Now we're going to age the edges of this a little bit, because I like that look. So, and of course, you know, I'm going to be using this Asphaltum DA180. It should have my name on it. I'm just saying. There's enough of it. I use it enough. It should have my name on it.
Miss Deb Bloomfield is celebrating 16 months as a member.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, she is.
Sistine.
So I'm going to just put a rough float all the way around the outside edge of my tag. Doesn't have to be even. Doesn't have to be pretty. Keep the darkest value to the outside edge. I kind of want this to look like it's been sitting out in the shed or out in the garage for forever. So I was thinking about something the other day. For years, for a number of years, I did a lot of faux finishing. On not just on a small scale, but on an industrial scale. We did a whole bunch of everything from movie sets to hotels. I mean, you name it. And there's a lot of really cool effects that can be done very simply. And it kind of occurred to me the other day that wouldn't it be fun to do a live based on that?
Does asphaltum come in quarts or gallons?
No, it doesn't even come in an 8-ounce bottle, and it should come in like a quart at least.
Make a couple phone calls.
Yeah. Yep. I need asphaltum to come in 8-ounce jars at the least. There we go. So I've got a little bit of asphaltum. You can see it's not a perfect, just looks a little dirty at the edges, which is what I wanted. So I'm going to dry that.
Marjorie Eaton celebrates 17 months.
Yes, ma'am. She's
As
been
a
with us a
member.
long time.
She says, I love our time together.
Marjorie's awesome. I mean, she tackles those challenges every month and always comes up with something amazing. The last couple of pieces she's done were just outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. I get so excited when I see them doing that. So we're going to take that same asphaltum and we're going to put a little wash of it over top of this surface. So
What if we write to DecoArt asking for larger asphaltum bottles?
go ahead.
Do it.
Do it. So I've got a little bit of asphaltum thinned, heavily thinned, and I'm going to vertically apply a wash of that thinned asphaltum to the surface. So I'm not trying to bury the blue. I just want it to age a little. And I'm always going in that vertical pattern. If I put my base coat on vertically, and then I distress it vertically, and then I put the antiquing on vertically, you get this really nice, uniform, aged look. So it doesn't look intentional, I think is the word that I was looking for. So look at that. We get this nice, uniform finish on there, and it's ready to trace and transfer your line drawing on. Not a difficult piece, it's just layers, one step at a time. And I love this. Now this one is ready. I can do another critter if I want to. Or not. I could do something. I can do whatever I want now. Because I have this fun little background back here that's very farmhousey. So we can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. So, but today we're going to do this to it. Which is the favorite because I love sunflowers and I love roosters. So I have mine all finished out, ready to go. I have my sunflower is based in. I've put a little bit of warm white. You can use gesso, but just wanted to put a nice little base down for the petals of the sunflower. And then I put the asphaltum in the center. I have left my line drawing in place so that I can just quickly retrace my letters because I got fed up trying to work around them. So we're going to start with a little bit of this. This is some Sunny Day. I think it's one of my favorite yellows. Right up there with this one. I love this one.
Is it asphaltum or ashfaltum?
Asphaltum.
ASS?
No, ASPH.
But how is it pronounced?
Asphaltum.
Asphaltum?
Yep. Or you can do it the German way and say Asphaltum.
Do you have to be a member to see the challenge projects that everyone has painted?
It is on the members' Facebook page, so yes. But they are more than welcome to post their challenge projects on their own pages. Margie's are amazing. Margie always thinks a little outside the box, and I love it. That's not to say that the rest of the membership doesn't do some amazing things too, because they do.
Example, Zombie Bunny.
Zombie Bunny, yeah.
Which I just realized has either a blood mustache or is a ginger like me.
I think he's a ginger like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either he has a mustache of blood or he's a ginger.
I've been trying to figure out how to paint pussy willows.
Where'd that come from?
Because I'm working on a piece right now that has pussy willows in it.
Ah.
And
That explains it.
I went to a colored pencil tutorial to figure it out, of all things. But finally figured it out. It's fun, and they look really cute. So we're going to start. I'm going to use a round. And a small round here. Again, I've been really liking these Dynasty Water Lily. So I'll load up this round brush and I'm going to base coat right over top of that white that I've got down here. Now I used the white because we're working over a dark blue, and yellow is a notoriously hard to cover color.
There's one problem with doing color matching at Home Depot.
What's that? There's a lot of problems with doing color matching at Home Depot, but
Most of the paints that they use there are all white base.
not so.
Most.
Well, you just simply, when you get a color match, do a color match at Home Depot, they choose the base, depending on the
Can
color.
you do a transparent base?
Yes.
I thought most of it was white.
No. You start with a base. Most reds, jewel tones, and whatnot are in what's called a deep base or a clear base paint.
Have you got them to do asphaltum before?
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Would it be worth a try?
It would. But I would have them do it in a smaller size first.
Like a quart?
Or smaller if I could. Just simply because there'd be nothing worse than getting home with a quart of it, discovering that it's out by even a little. And asphaltum is one of those colors. At least it is for me. It's got to be perfect. My biggest problem with using a house paint is that they are not designed for this type of work. It's a latex, not an acrylic. And although everybody says there's no difference, there actually is a big difference. And most interior latex paints are not light fast. And most of our paints, like the Americanas, are light fast to a degree. So, almost there. I love Sunny Day for this. It's just such a beautiful yellow. Great base for sunflower.
Yeah.
He's showing me pictures of puppies.
He's mischievous.
That's a dog whose name would be Havoc. Yep, Havoc.
Loki.
Loki? Like I said.
God of mischief.
Yep. Havoc. I have a friend, her dog's name is Riot. And from what
Diablo.
Diablo. I don't know, you have to be careful when you name an animal, because they have a tendency to live up to it.
Mm-hmm.
We have Miss Dot. Miss Dot. We're almost there. Just a little bit of base coating. Now, when I'm base coating something like this, you notice where I'm pulling the stroke, I pull it in the shape of the petal. This will work. It just works in your favor towards the end. So there we are. I love painting sunflowers. I love sunflowers. I was sitting here playing with a doodle the other night of a new sunflower piece. So, I think sunflowers look great regardless of how simplistic they are. And personally, the more simplistic they are, the more charming they are. They're beautiful when they're realistic, but there's just something very charming about sunflowers. So, I'm going to dry that real quick. Can't let that go too long. And I have a leaf down here. I'm going to base coat that with antique green, if I can find my antique green. Okay, where's my antique green? There it is. I have too much paint, said no one ever. So, antique green is a favorite. I want this leaf to have a really deep tone, so I'm not putting any white underneath it. And it is going to take a couple of coats to cover it, but I'm okay with that. So, I'll just put a light base coat of that green in there. Super simple. Just make sure everything is good and dry. And I'm going to put one more coat of green in there. So if you guys have, coming back to the metal finishes or the faux finish thing, if you guys would like to see some projects that incorporate some of that, just let me know. It'd be fun, I think, and you get a lot out of it because you can do some really great things with some really simple techniques. And so you're probably going to see one or two projects coming up that we're going to be incorporating some of that. Okay, we have sunflower. So I'm going to grab my 3/8 angled shader. And I'm going to grab a little bit of cad orange. I love cadmium orange, orange flame, any nice bright orange will do for what we're doing. You just need something with a lot of heat, that's all. Choose your favorite orange. Now the pattern calls for cad orange. I don't have any cad orange left, so I'm working with a little bit of orange flame, of course, because I love orange flame. So inside the petal, I'm putting a U-shaped float inside the petal, like so. On all of those, the bigger petals, the ones that are in the foreground. We're not really worrying too much about the ones in the background just yet. So, big U-shape float. It doesn't go right to the edge of the petal either. It comes short by maybe 1/8 of an inch. So don't worry about getting that perfect, because that doesn't matter. There we go. And this is going to look a little wonky for a bit. That's okay too. Easy peasy. So, nice big U-shaped float. Should get some more paint on that though. There we go. Needs a little heat. This one too. That's better. So we've got all of those petals that are closest to us now all have that big U-shaped float on them. Now, all of the ones that are tucked in behind are going to get this. We're going to float up against the edge of the petal, like so. It's still U-shaped, but we're going to define that forward petal a little bit. So, shape the petal. There's the U-shape. So now we have some definition. We've cut in and defined that forward petal by doing this simple little float.
Do you have a pattern with Queen Anne's lace?
Of the flower?
Queen Anne's lace.
Well, Queen Anne's lace can also be a flower. That's why I'm asking. Because it's not just a fabric. But no, I don't. Unfortunately. But that would be a pretty one. They're very delicate, very elegant looking. And very common here on the East Coast, especially in the marshlands.
Yes, the flower.
Yeah. No, I don't. But that's an excellent, excellent idea. Queen Anne's lace is... It's an old world flower, or an old-fashioned flower, kind of like hollyhocks. You don't see them very often anymore. People don't put them in their gardens as much as they used to. And I love hollyhocks. I have really great memories of hollyhocks.
By the sounds of it, they want to learn more about faux finishes.
Yeah? I think it it would be fun as long as we can incorporate it into a nice little piece of artwork. We can do that.
She used to be the queen of faux.
Now I'm just a queen.
The faux finish queen.
I mean, we're talking simple decorative finishes. There are so many really elaborate finishes that you can do, but they take a great deal of time. They take some experience. They take a tremendous amount of practice. But there's a huge variety of simple faux finishes that can be done to great effect that don't require that level. So I think we should tackle a few of those. I think it would be fun. So we've got, look at that, we've got petals. How fun is that? Now I kind of like that sort of cupped shape that this creates on these. So I'm going to dry this real quick. And we're going to come in and we're going to deepen some of these shadows with a little bit of that asphaltum. So right over top of that orange, I'm putting a float of asphaltum.
$10 from Deb Bloomfield.
Thank you, Deb.
She got the Sheba saying thank you.
The Yiba, you know.
The Queen of Faux. Sounds better than the Queen of Fake.
It does.
Yeah, it does. Which is essentially what it means.
Yeah. That's precisely what it means. Now there's a ton of really highly effective, very simple little faux finishes that we can use to add into our artwork. I was thinking about that the other day, that would just be so much fun to create a bunch of pieces that utilize that. So I'm just deepening my orange and those shadows. You know, that little bit of shading that separates all those petals. We're going to deepen that with a little bit of asphaltum. And this one still looks a little mousy. You know, against all that blue, it still looks a little bit mousy, but we're going to knock some heat into this in a second. And there we go. Whoops, missed one. Good heavens. So we need some heat. Heat. Now, you can use a little bit of sunset gold for this, or you can use, I love this yellow. This one is just yummy. Or you can use this. If you don't have the sunset gold, you can use saffron yellow. They actually are fairly close. One's a little hotter than the other, but not by a lot. So you can use either one. So if you don't have sunset gold, don't be afraid to use saffron yellow. It'll work just fine. So we're going to load up an angled shader with a little bit of that sunset gold. And you're going to float the tips of the petals, all of them, with a little bit of that sunset gold right to the tip and down to the edge. I love the heat this creates. It just gives these sunflowers such a nice pop. It's just great heat. Now I'm going to switch. I'll put a little saffron on here so you can see the difference. The difference is negligible. So this over here is done with the sunset gold, and these over here are done with the saffron yellow. And quite honestly, you can't tell the difference. not for what we're doing. So, like I said, if you're short on colors, if you don't have that sunset gold, I know it's been really hard for people to get certain colors. Michaels doesn't carry so many, and Hobby Lobby doesn't carry so many anymore. Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to find a great color selection. So there's nothing wrong with substituting if you have to. Just go to the next color that's going to give you that zing. And in this case, a little bit of saffron yellow will do the trick very nicely. You just need like a high energy yellow for this. That's all. A little bit on the transparent side. And it will work just fine. Look at that. Now we got that nice punch of yellow. Beautiful. I love that. It's yummy yellow. Saffron or golden sunset, they're my two favorite bright yellows. They've got oodles of heat. Lots of zing. I mean, look at that. Just pops off of that dark blue. Love it. Love it. And I like how that little bit of sunny days stays there. But we're going to do something really fun with this. We're going to do a little bit of outline work on those petals in just a minute. We are going to work on the center of our sunflower. And we're going to start with a little bit of lamp black. If I can find my lamp black. I stopped buying it in 2-ounce bottles and just buy it in these big 8-ounce ones now because I go through so much of it. So you're going to float the center and the bottom left of the center of the flower. So we're going to create in the center of the flower just a little divot like so, with just a little float of lamp black like this. It's just going to create a little U shape or a C shape in the center of the flower. And then you're going to do that same thing to the outside edge right here. This is just going to give the illusion that there's a little bit of height, that this center domes up a little. So a little float along there, just like that. So that just creates sort of that little bit of elevation in the center so it doesn't look like a flat blob in the middle of it. So it gives it a little bit of height. And then this little bit down here sort of sets the center down a little bit. I don't know if you can see it all that well on camera. It's black on a dark brown, so it doesn't stand out as well as we'd like. There. So if I tilt it into the camera, you can see it a little bit better so that the lights aren't doing a number on it. Now the center in here is just asphaltum. I base coated it with asphaltum. I try to use all of the colors that are in my supply list, try to use them so that they're balanced throughout. So usually when you see me use asphaltum in something like the background, it's going to show up somewhere else because I'm going to use it to either deepen something, I'm going to use it for base. All it does is just unify everything because that color sort of flows throughout, even in the smallest increments. So we've got our shade in the center. And we're going to stipple the center of it. We're going to use a color called Sprout, which is, it's a new color from Decawart. It's sort of a chartreuse green. And I say sort of because it's not quite as muddy as a chartreuse, but it's close. There's the Sprout. So we're going to use a little bit of Sprout. And we're going to use a little asphaltum. Now you can do this a couple of different ways. So if you like your deerfoot, if you are a fan of the deerfoot, you can use a deerfoot for this. You can use a point blender for this. You could even use a small mop if you want to, or you could use a fountain brush. I mean, any one of them is going to work. So I'm going to use this little deer foot. This one is a 1/4. It's from the 300 series in Dynasty, which means it's a blend. It's a natural hair and a synthetic combined. So I'm going to pick up asphaltum all over that and just tap it into the brush. But the brush is going to be loaded with asphaltum. See? Like that. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the sprout on the tip of the brush. Just like that. And then I'm going to pounce that on my palette until the two colors blend. And then we're going to, on the opposite side, remember we've got a shadow here, we're going to put a highlight out here. So I'm just going to tap like so. So little asphaltum on the brush, little bit of sprout. Tap on your palette till they blend. There we go. I didn't quite have enough of that green on there. I think I'm going to be a little excessive with it so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I'm just tapping and letting those colors meld. And then I just let them run out like so. So we end up with a little bit of a highlight on that side. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of this. So following along the bottom, remember that little divot that we did in there? So I'm just going to tap and blend like so until those two colors meld. So we get this nice little, almost a cup-like look, and it's quite soft. So I'm going to dry that. I know it's really hard to see it on this in the light. So if I tilt it this way, you should be able to see it better. There we go. So we've got a nice soft highlight. We don't want anything too over the top. So then we're going to take our, I'm going to use a small rigger for this. You can do this with the tip of your brush. You can use a stylus if you want. I prefer to use the tip of a brush. Not a big fan of stylus. And I'm going to add just some nice little dip dots on the highlighted side of my piece. Make sure those little dots come out over the top of the petals. We don't need a lot of them. And this is just with a little sunny day. And I'm going to take a little bit of warm white as well, just a few. I like to come up over the edge of that center a little bit. We don't need a lot. And we're going to do the same thing on this soft side as well. Just a little bit. Oops. Not too close together. We don't want them really tight. But that's all we need to do. Just that little bit. Now, keep in mind, we're putting lettering over top of this, so we don't need to go into really extreme detail for this. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to do a little detail on the leaf. And then we'll finish off the flower with some fun little details on the petals. So down here, we have this leaf. We're going to shade that with a little bit of plantation pine. It's a great green. This is our shading color for the antique green. A little bit of plantation pine. And we're going to shade up underneath that petal like so. We want a nice shadow under there. And then we'll dry it real quick. We're going to put a nice little center vein down the middle of this leaf, just so that we get some nice shape. It's not just a green blob hanging off the side. It needs to have shape. So I'm going to put a nice little float down the center vein like so. Walk it out a little bit. And deepen a few things. There we go. Now our highlight color for that leaf is that same green that we used in the center, that sprout. Don't need a lot of it. Make sure you blend it out well so it's not full strength, because it's a pretty obnoxious green when it's full strength. And we don't want that. Just a nice little highlight down the center vein and out on the tips of these leaves. This little serrated edge here. There we go. And we'll dry that. And that's all we really need to do for that leaf. We just needed to give it some shape and a little definition. Nothing worse than just having a green blob hanging off the side of your flower. Now we're going to add a little bit of some fun detail to our petals. I'm going to thin out a little bit of Sunny Day. And I'm going to add a little touch of warm white to it just to make it a little bit lighter. Just a little. I don't want to thin it out so much. And then we're going to add, starting down here on the edge of the petal, just going to add a squiggly little line to the edges of our petals. Neatness doesn't count for this. That squiggly little line just gives you a nice softening effect to the edges of the petals. Like so. So any little, wobbles and bobbles and spaces where we weren't quite as neat and tidy as we had wanted to be, these little things are going to disguise those. Not necessarily disguise them, but detract from them so that they're less noticeable. And it gives a little definition to these petals without putting a hard edge on them. Don't want to put a hard edge on things. And this is just fun because you can now fix little odds and sods on your flowers that perhaps you weren't overly thrilled with. I know in painting we have a tendency to worry about the minutia, all those little things. And quite honestly, in the grand scheme, when somebody looks at it, they're not looking at that tiny little thing that drove you crazy. Because it drove you crazy. They don't even see it. So these little things, like these little details to the edges of the petals, if something, that petal's not perfect at the tip, it's not perfectly round, who cares? Honestly, who cares? When you put these little details in, it just softens everything. And it maybe doesn't get rid of those little flaws that you perceive, but it makes them so that they fall into this, the overall part of it. And then it's less noticeable. Chances are you're the one that sees it, not anybody else. So I'm going to dry this real quick. And then we're going to talk about transferring lettering, because I don't think we talk about that all that often, because I usually have it already traced on. But lettering is one of those things that scares the living bejeebers out of people. So let's grab a nice little piece of white graphite. I've got my line drawing back in place. I kept mine taped in place so that it would just drop down where I needed it. And I've taped it. It's there securely. I've put my white graphite down, shiny side down, red pen for tracing. Now, this one is sort of a rustic looking lettering style, so I'm not too worried about, perfectly straight vertical lines, because quite honestly, this lettering doesn't have any. It has sort of vertical lines, but precious few straight ones. But the trick is to do this as smoothly as possible. Where there is a font that has very straight vertical lines, use a ruler to do your tracing and your transferring on those straight vertical lines and those straight horizontal lines, because it's going to help you maintain a really straight line when it comes time to paint it. So in this particular case, I'm just going to press firmly and trace out my lettering. This is the other reason that I use these 0.38 pens, is that ultra fine line. I'm not having to fight against any of these heavy lines. And I find that a stylus does that. It leaves behind a lot of thick lines, and I really prefer a very fine one. I did have an Italian-made stylus. It was used actually for a paper technique years ago, and it was an ultra-fine stylus, and it was much like the tip of this pen. Very, very fine, and it was fabulous, but somewhere between 3 or 4 moves, it has gone missing. So I no longer have it. So I'm just about finished. Just finished tracing on this lettering. And then we're going to talk about painting lettering. And this font is a fun one to work with. It's simple, it's clean, it's very forgiving. So if your tracing isn't the absolute best, it's not going to be a disaster. There we go. It's on there nice and straight. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Pretty closely lined up to where it was in the first place, but that's good. So I will remove that. And our starting point for this lettering is to do some shading. And I like to take a little bit of that cadmium orange that we used for the shading in our flower. I'm going to use a little bit of that. I'm not going to use it full strength. I am going to blend this out quite a bit. And this is going to be my shading color around my lettering. So on the right-hand side of the lettering, particularly where it overlaps the yellow, I'm going to use a little float of that orange. It just helps bring this lettering forward quite a bit. So I've got a nice little float in. Now in the center portion here, I'm going to use a little bit of thinned lamp black. I am going to use it heavily thinned, mind you, and I'm going to float up against my lettering where it overlaps the brown. Little float. I'm not too worried about getting over top of the lettering at this point, which is a godsend. So just where it overlaps that yellow, or brown, sorry, the asphaltum, is where you're going to put that float. Don't put it on the lettering because then it's going to mess it up. Or on the yellow. Good grief. There we go. And now deepen it. Now, it doesn't look like much at this point until you get the white in. Once you get that white onto the lettering, all of those shadows you're going to see the difference they make. Because the lettering is going to lift up off that surface. So I'm using a 0 rigger for this. And I'm going to use a little bit of warm white. And I'm thinning mine out with a little bit of that Joe Sonia's. Just till I get an ink-like consistency. Just so that the paint comes off the brush quite smoothly. The nice part about these riggers is that they do have a chisel edge. And so it makes doing this type of lettering really simple. And that paint's coming off the brush really nicely. There we go. Now I'm not seeing. There we go. Did Renee leave us? No, he's here. What's for dinner tonight? Well, last night we had Chinese food. And I'm thinking tonight we might be having Chinese food again because I made quite a bit. Ordinarily, Friday is pizza night in this house, which is fine for everybody except me because I'm not a fan. So every other Friday or so, I get to choose what we're having. And it's the idea being that Friday is supposed to be my night where I don't have to do a whole lot as far as cooking goes. And which is why we usually end up having pizza. So I just am, I could take pizza or leave it. I know that's probably a horrible thing to say and will probably generate a lot of hate mail, but how can you not like pizza? Well, I don't dislike pizza. Just not my first choice. Let's put it that way. However, I made Chinese last night, so... Well, actually, it would be easier to say that we had Asian last night, would it not?
Yeah, there was Thai.
Yeah, I had Thai
Vietnamese,
chicken. Yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah.
It was a good mixture of Asian foods.
It was not really Chinese, but Asian foods. Yes, that would be a more apropos description. I made chicken fried rice. We had Vietnamese spring rolls. And then I made Thai chicken. Yep. We had Chinese food. And I'm not really keen on sweet sauces, but I really do like that Thai red pepper sauce, that chili pepper sauce.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think it's just the heat that does it for me.
I'm trying to see how to set up membership gifting.
Oh, is that what you're trying to do?
Hmm.
There. Okay, so my paint is, for whatever reason, is just not covering as well as it usually does. I don't know why. It's kind of wishy-washy. So I'll probably have to do it again because it's just not covering very well. I have no idea why. There we go. Usually I can do this type of lettering with, just fill it in one stroke and then it's good. But today my paint is just not cooperating. I'm just not getting the coverage I want, but that's all right. It could quite simply be that I have not mixed it well, or maybe I didn't shake the paint well enough. Who knows? But regardless, it's coming off the brush really nicely. It's just not covering very well. Oh well. Brand new bottle of paint too. We're almost there. I'll put one coat on. Maybe it'll look better when I'm there. It's funny. I sometimes wonder about how it's so hard to get the same consistency each time when you're using exactly the same things. But lately I've been noticing a couple of things. The whites have been really not covering as well as they used to, or it seems that way anyway. But I've noticed that. I bought a bottle of white paint from Walmart because I needed a bottle of white paint. A lot of I buy the big 8-ounce bottles. I haven't been able to get white paint. And I think that there's actually some supply issues with it, with white paint in general, because I can't even say that this is an exclusive issue to one brand or another, because I found it in several different brands. So it could just quite simply be, a supply issue, because I'm finding that a number of things are being affected by those supply chain issues. But I have noticed in white paint, I have a bottle of Folk Art, just white, their base white color, and it's always been a really good opaque white. It always covered really well, and lately it just, nope. The most recent bottle I got, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't as good, if that makes any sense. And I'm finding with my Decor Warm White that the same thing. I don't often have to put 2 coats of white paint on my lettering, but I do now. But again, I think it's just there's a number of issues with paint products all over the place. Even house paint. I noticed there's some stores you can't get certain things. So I'm just thinking that it's a supply chain issue that is just, maybe just catching up with us. So, okay, I'm not 100% satisfied, but it'll do. I'm just going to quickly put another coat on this up here because this one is just not cutting it. And it's funny that you notice those types of things in things that you use all the time. And for me, it's white paint, warm white paint. Thankfully, it hasn't hit my asphaltum because then I'd have issues. that I've noticed in white paint. And again, not isolated to one brand either. I've seen it in a couple of different brands that I use quite frequently. There we go. That'll do. Let's dry that. And then we're going to have a little bit of fun with this lettering. We're going to do a little bit of shading at the bottom. I like using Bahama Blue as my favorite blue. Bahama Blue. If you don't have Bahama Blue, you can use Crystal Blue. This is a new color last year. It's just barely one value lighter. It's a really good substitute. If you can't get Bahama Blue, you can use that Crystal Blue. Great color. So a little bit of Bahama Blue. We don't need a lot. Just need a drop on your palette because we don't really use this much. We're going to use a small amount on the Rooster. So we're going to take a little bit of that Bahama Blue on I've got a 3/8 angle here. And we're going to put a float of that Bahama Blue at the bottom of the letter. And then we're just going to let it blend up. So take your time. And I want to take it about halfway up the letter. Just like that. Don't overthink it. It doesn't have to be that meticulous, perfect float. We just want a little color in there. This is a country rustic sign. So don't worry about the perfection in this. So about halfway up. I love this. I love that little shadow from the bottom going halfway up. Just like so. Doo, doo, doo. If you want to do it differently, go from the top down, that's fine. You can do it that way too. Either way is going to work. That little bit of Bahama Blue helps make these letters stand out nicely too. But it also gives them a little bit of a vintage feel. So we've got our Bahama Blue in. I'm going to dry this real quick and then we're going to use a black gel pen to add a little bit of detail to this. If I still have one. And I finally got these back in. I love these. These are my favorites. So I'm just going to put a light scribbly line around my lettering. Nothing fancy, nothing too heavily detailed. All it's going to do is just lift that off of that yellow, off of that surface a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be neat. Doesn't even have to be pretty. But it's just a little light scribbly line. It just sort of enhances this lettering a little bit. And ta-da. So we have one more fun little thing to do to the edge of this surface. We're going to do that with a little bit of cobblestone. Then we're going to paint roosters. So cobblestone, I've got a nice little round brush and I'm going to thin out a little cobblestone just so that it comes off the brush nicely. And we're going to put a chipped edge all along the edge of this piece. Sort of a little push me, pull you type thing all along the edge. Now you can stop where the flower, when you come up against the flower, or you can take it right over it. Either way is going to work. All depends on your own personal preference. I've done it both ways and I like it either way. So just a little loose, irregular. I find if you turn the brush and then push and pull, you get a nice irregular line. Nice little irregular sort of chipped paint look. Like so. And we're going to dry that. I like this broken paint look. It's just fun. So make sure it's good and dry before this next step, because we're going to use an opaque white pen for this. Now, I usually have a Uniball. I cannot, for the life of me, find my Uniball. So, I'm going to work with, I think this one's a Jelly Roll. I have a beautiful Arteza opaque white pen. That works too, but it's just not on my table today. So I'm going to follow along that broken edge that I've just created with that white gel pen. Just to enhance that sort of chipped paint look, kind of acts like a highlight. So just follow the imperfections that you created and enhance them a little bit with that little bit of opaque white ink. Just like so. I don't know, I just think this adds a fun little detail to this. There we go, and I'll come back over here and finish up this side. And like I said, just follow all of those little crinkles and ripples and bubbles and flaws that you created, straight lines and squiggly lines. Now I'm going to dry that too. This gel ink needs to dry well. And then our last step for this, we're going to spatter it a little bit. I'm going to use a little bit of thinned warm white and a little bit of thinned asphaltum. I like a little bit of asphaltum. Going back, 30 years, 30, 35, 40 years, we used to fly speck, we called it. Spattering, but we used to call it fly specking for vintage style things. And we used to use either thin black or burnt umber, and I don't know, it just didn't have enough oomph for me. So I like to take a little bit of thinned warm white on my fugly brush, and I'm going to just lightly spatter this. I just want a little bit of texture. I like the spatter. I think it softens things really nicely, makes things a little more interesting. And it's subtle. It's not an in-your-face thing. Then I'm going to rinse out the brush, and then I'm going to use a little bit of a thin asphaltum for the next bit. And I'm going to do the same thing. But again, fine. I don't want big, great gobs of it on there. Just the thin. And there we go. Now that I've completely toasted my manicure. So our little tag is done. I'm going to set this off to the side, and then we're going to paint our rooster. I really like this piece. But I have a thing for roosters, so, it's just me. So our little rooster is base coated with, I've got a gorgeous red on here. I'm using either country red or tomato red, either one of them. I love both of those. They're really, really nice. We're going to use a little bit of Prussian blue, which I don't have, so I'm going to be using deep navy, or royal navy, sorry. We've got some sunset gold, a little bit of orange flame, some asphaltum, some sprout, some Bahama blue. So we've got all the colors, all the fun colors. So we're going to get started with all of this red in here. I have my little guy base coated. So the comb, the eye plate, and the wattle. Yes, I know what they are. They're all base coated with country red, or in my case, tomato red. The eye is base coated with a little bit of Bahama blue. The beak is a little bit of sunset gold. And the body of our lovely rooster is a little bit of plantation pine. Now I'm going to take my round brush and we're going to start with the feathers on here. And I like this, that we're going to do this with a round brush. We're going to pick up some plantation pine, which is this gorgeous dark green. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that. I always like to have a little bit of that Joe Sonia's in my brush. Just helps make things move. So I've got plantation pine in my brush. And then we're going to pick up a little bit of that sprout green. You know, I love that green. And we're going to start stroking in some really loose, simple feathers. Just like this. It's going to create lots of movement. Just like that. Just follow the shape. So we're going to see lots of strokes, lots of movement in this. And I've picked up just a small amount of that sprout on that dirty brush. And I kind of like, you know, that it creates these fine stria. So there we have our feathers. And it's pretty loose. It's nothing fancy, believe you me. Just make sure you get a little of that above the eye. And I'm going to dry this real quick. And then I'm going to break out my liner. It is very loose and streaky, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of that sprout on my liner brush and thin it out so that it really comes off the brush nicely. And then we're going to start adding some fine, whoops, I need more paint. I thinned it to the point where I had no paint. So we're just going to start adding some fine little lines like this. Paint keeps, my brush is running out of paint quickly. Not enough liquid in it. There we go. Oh, that's better. So we're just going to start stroking in little highlights on the feathers like so. They don't have to match up with anything. We're just putting in a little bit of texture. And they can overlap. And you're going to come in here too. Don't forget to put a few on there. And then see all these little textured bits out here? Make sure that you could get some highlights out there. There we go. So we've got lots of highlight on there now. And we're going to switch over to that 3/8 angled shader. And I'm going to use that plantation pine. And we're going to shade up against that red and over top of all of those feathers with a float of plantation pine. Just like that. So to dry that real quick. And then we're going to move over onto the comb and the wattle. The wattle. Wattle. Wattle, wattle, wattle. That's turkeys.
They have a waddle.
Chickens, chickens. Roosters have waddles and combs.
And turkeys have waddles.
Waddles. So do roosters.
Roosters.
Yeah. Waddle is just the thing underneath their chin. Waddle. Waddle. So we're going to shade this red. I'm using a little bit of that navy blue. Deep navy blue. Royal navy blue. And I'm shading along the top of the head and the bottom of the comb and then up around like so. And a little float on the back side of each of those points. And I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom of the eye plate, right here. And along the back side of the waddle as it joins there. And then I'm going to separate the waddle because there's actually two pieces right there. And then there's this great little piece on the eye, around the eye plate here and above the nose. You're going to separate that as well. Now it's a wonderful beak. And I'm going to shade that with a little bit of that burnt orange under the waddle and into the mouth like that. I want to bring it out about halfway. Just like so. Can you zoom in on that a little bit? He's trying to zoom in a little bit so we can get a little closer.
That's as much as I can zoom in.
Okay, well then we'll make do. We do what we can. So we've got an eyeball here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that Royal Navy. I finally got that right. And I'm going to put a shadow across the top of the eye, like so. And that float comes past the edge of that eyeball just a little bit on both sides. I'm going to dry it. I'll bring it a little closer to the camera. Maybe you can see it a little more clearly. I'm waiting to see it on the screen, but so there we go. So you can see it's a little bit in the corners. So it creates sort of an eyelid, for lack of a better term. And then we're going to use a little bit of lamp black. Now I'm using the end of my brush to do this. I'm going to put a dot right in this. Oh, bugger. Oops. There was a schmegly in my paint.
Technical term.
A technical term, yes, there's a schmegly. So I'm going to use a little bit of glaze.
Will you be doing a Highland cow?
I would love to do a Highland cow. I think it would be fun, yes.
So the series isn't over.
I'm thinking it might get a little bigger. A little bit. Okay, let's try this again.
What do we got? We got a sheep, a pig, a
There we
dairy
go.
cow,
Yeah, we have dairy cattle.
a goat,
A goat.
a bumblebee,
Yep.
a horse, and a chicken.
Rooster.
Chicken.
Rooster.
They fry it the same.
No, I wouldn't fry up a rooster. Tough as shoe leather.
We need an alpaca.
No. Oh, no.
A llama.
Llama. So now that I've managed to fix up what I screwed up, I've put a nice little black dot in the center of the eyeball. I'll just make sure it's dry before I mess with it any further, because if I do, I'm going to make a mess. So something I don't often use, but I am going to use today, is this. This is a 1/4 inch angled shader. I don't often go any smaller than a 3/8, but I'm going to today. We're going to put a teeny tiny little highlight in our eyeball right along the bottom with a tiny little float of warm white right below the pupil.
Camel.
Camel? No. So we've got a nice little highlight at the bottom of the eye. We're going to add another little highlight to the eyeball. And you want it to go both on the iris and on the pupil on the upper left side. Look at that. We got a nice bright eyeball. When was the last time you saw a blue-eyed chicken?
The cow would be awesome. We've done a cow already.
Yep, we did a cow. Dairy cow.
But a Highland cow.
But a Highland cow? Yeah, I think that'd be cute. I'm going to talk to Karen Beaupre. She can make me
Is
a
that
Highland
glazing
cow.
medium that you're dipping your brush in?
Always, yes.
Always.
Yep, and it's fast dry glaze.
Is it bad I'm eating a chicken sandwich right now?
No, not at all.
A donkey.
A donkey.
A bunny rabbit.
A bunny would be cute. A more realistic bunny. Not like an Easter card bunny.
Oh, we gotta do something for Easter, so.
Yeah. So I'm going to highlight all of this red. I'm going to use a little bit of that. I like the orange flame, so I'm going to use a little orange flame to highlight the red. Little highlight on the points of the comb, comme ça. You can use a little bit of warm white. I just, on the spur of the moment, decided I'm using a little bit of orange flame and white. Because I had one of those moments. Let's call it an epiphany. Might be overstating it, but a little bit. So opposite the shading, I'm just putting in a nice little float for a highlight. Kind of like the orange, just keeps it from getting a little too muddy.
When you rinse your brush in water, do you dab some of the water out of your brush before dipping it in the Joe Sonia?
Yes, I do. Tap it on my paper towel. Wet my brush with glaze. And then I do my highlights. So I've got all of this. Got my highlights in, got my shading in. I'm going to pick up a little asphaltum. And I'm going to go around, I'm going to deepen all of my shading with just a little float of asphaltum.
How about an actual chicken? Not a rooster. But
Like a chicken. Oh, we can do that. That'd be fun.
I think the alpaca or the llama would be great. Nice fluffy one.
A nice fluffy one.
Or a donkey.
A donkey.
Donkey or a mule. Or...
Well, I have friends that have donkeys. There we go.
A Shetland pony.
Or a Highland pony.
Or a Highland pony. Or a mini horse. Mini horses are like dogs.
Yep. Do they scare you?
No. That's the weird part. They're like small dogs. Well, large dogs.
They're large dogs.
Just equine.
Equine in nature. So
How much glaze do you put in your brush? Enough.
Here, I'll show you how. This is what I do. I take my brush. I've patted this on paper towel to take out the excess water. I just dip my brush in and I draw it up the sides of the jar, like so that it's wet, but it's not dripping. And then I'll either touch it to a wet sponge or not. I usually will decide that once I start blending my paint. But it should look just like that. I don't use a lot.
You use enough.
I use enough.
I'm in a smart-ass mood today.
I'll say. So,
How about a border collie?
do you know what's really funny is Karen suggested that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she even already has a cutout for it.
No, of course she does.
So, I'm a thinking. So, we're going to add some final highlights in a few places, and then we're going to do a little bit of detailing. So, I've got my liner brush. I'm going to little stroke there on the bridge of the nose. Wow, this me and white today. Don't want to. Little highlight there.
A duck?
A cobra chicken.
Cobra chicken.
That's what we need, a cobra chicken.
I think a border collie would be perfect.
So I'm just using my liner brush to literally dry brush a little highlight onto the edges here, like so. And I'm going to put a little stroke. Maybe not. Jeez Louise. Brush does not want to work for me today. So I've got my gel pen and my extra long detail liner. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that sprout green that we used for the feathers. And we're going to add a few little details along here. And this is just to soften that boundary between the comb and to give us a few little extra highlights on these feathers, like so.
Deb is asking for a leprechaun skull.
That would be too fun. That could happen. So I'm going to use my gel pen. I'm going to come out onto the eye, right above the eye there. We're going to put in a little bit of an eyelid. And I like the little line around the eye, like so. Scribbly line on the beak.
She did the bunny skull.
I didn't do the bunny skull.
No, but Deb did.
Yeah, Deb Bloomfield. Yes, she did. I loved it.
There's a mosquito in the house.
Yeah, it was one lone mosquito.
Such a lonely skeeter.
Yeah. So I'm just adding a few little details because I like little details. Little sketchy lines here and there. Put a nostril on his nose. Little teardrop shape. Separate all of those little bits and pieces. And we have a rooster. So I'm going to grab a little wood spacer because I finally remembered to dig them out. Now I like a little elevation on these. There's just something about it, having that little bit of elevation.
The skull.
I love skulls. If you could see my studio.
She loves skulls.
I have a thing for skulls. I'm sorry. I have a skull bowl on my desk that Renee gave me for Christmas. I have a skull pencil holder, a glass one, on the other desk that holds all the pens on Renee's desk. And I have skulls everywhere. Skull aprons. I have skulls everywhere. I have like a collection of skulls everywhere.
Even your bowl warmer has got a skull.
Even my bowl warmer is covered in skulls. So I have a thing for skulls. So this is what I've been using. Is something like, these are a little bit bigger than the ones that I was using, but you could certainly cut these down if they're too big. I don't think they are. I think they're fine.
Want that smaller?
What's that?
Do you want that smaller?
Do I want it smaller?
That little brick.
I could, yeah. Why?
Yeah, I can make it smaller.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
So you only need about 1/8 of an inch, or let's say 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 an inch. That's all you really need. I'm actually like the elevation. I like that it casts a shadow. I'm gonna come in a bit.
Skulls, bees, and roosters.
Yep. Papa dogs.
And puppy dogs.
Yep. So we're going to mount this to the back side of our rooster. I'm going to use a little bit of, this is Aleene's Clear Tacky. I like this glue actually quite a bit. So I'm going to put a nice generous dollop of glue in the back, and I'm going to center it on our rooster. Like so. The reason I say center is then they're not going to have to fight with us much. So that when I go to glue this on, it's going to give us that step up, that elevation that we're looking for. So I like to do that. And I find this is the easiest method than trying to line it up with that. And then you discover that your wood block is not properly.
Oh, I got to answer this for Michelle.
What's that?
Who carries the brushes that you use?
The brush guys.
The brush guys.
Yeah, so thebrushguys.com. They're based in Southern California. They ship all over Canada and the US. Their pricing is up to 40% off of list price. So you're already getting a great deal. Their shipping is reasonable, considering, especially what shipping costs these days. Their shipping is very reasonable. And if you use the coupon code TracyM, you get an additional discount off of the discounted price. So you get a nice little bargain in the bargain. So I just line this little guy up so that that straight line is in line with this. And I just love this look. I love the elevation. It casts an interesting shadow, and it just looks so cool when they're hanging up. It just looks so cool. So just make sure that things are straight and level. And there you have it. I like this one better than my original.
You didn't even shadow you haven't done anything to the text.
I shaded it while you were out. It's been shaded and highlighted and outlined. It just doesn't show up on camera.
Apparently not.
Yeah, but yes, we did. So that is our Rise and Shine rooster.
I gotta zoom out here.
I love this one. This one is just fun. I like it when it's hanging because that elevated rooster's head casts shadows onto the piece, and it just gives it even more depth and more interest. It's a fun piece. So a little 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch piece of wood in behind it, a wooden button, any little scrap, something that gives it a little extra height is going to make it look great.
Faith cam.
And we're back up.
Yep.
This is a fun piece. I enjoy doing these tags. They're just a blast. And having that great little animal face, no matter what your tastes are, they can be done so many different ways. You can have a lot of fun with these surfaces. So the surfaces, if you're looking for them, are available at chipboard.ca. They're also available on my website at tracymoreau.net. So if you're looking for them, you can look in either one of those places. Shipping is moderate to reasonable. I try to keep it as reasonable as possible. From time to time, it gets a little crazy depending on who we're shipping with, but lately, not too bad. So I've been quite happy with that. So we do stock the surfaces, the stencils, and of course the patterns. We have those available to you as well. Next Saturday's class, we are doing the watered color daffodil, which is the one over my shoulder here on the wall.
The daffodil?
The daffodil. It's a fun technique. It is strictly mixed media. We're using a process of thinning acrylic paint to get a watercolor effect. I think you're really going to like this one. It's fun. It's easy. And it's very forgiving. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. The great part is that the line drawing in it can be painted in traditional toll and decorative painting. It's still going to look wonderful. But this watercolor technique over top of this paper background, you're going to love it. It is a lot of fun. So that is what we're doing next Saturday.
What about the hen?
The hen? We don't have a hen yet.
So now we need
I'll be having a conversation with Karen.
an alpaca, a donkey, a hen.
A hen, okay. An alpaca, a donkey, a hen, and apparently a border collie?
And a border collie, yeah.
Okay. I better get busy.
Well, it's either that or a coonhound.
A coonhound?
A coonhound.
I don't know what that is.
It's a big dog.
Is it?
It's bred specifically to protect farms.
Okay. That's not one I'm familiar
Or
with.
a Corso.
You know. I take way too much paint.
Big dog.
Big dog, yeah.
How about a cat? Farm cat.
Well, we can always do a cat. We need to
Barn
do a
cat.
kitty. Yeah, a little barn cat.
A little calico or something. No,
Little
calicos
calico. Any barn cat I've ever seen is like missing half of an ear.
are a good chunk of it missing.
Yeah. At least the ones around our farm were. They're a pretty raggedy looking bunch.
Jessica says you told us to give us ideas.
I love it. It helps me out because it gives me an idea of what you'd like to see and what you'd like to do. That's even more important.
What about the skunk?
A skunk?
A fox.
A fox. Fox would be cute. Little raccoon. We got to do wild animals next.
Then they can't be on a cattle tag.
No, but we could put them on a different surface.
Yeah, true. Kitty cat, duck, goose. Deb Bloomfield wants a frog.
Oh, that would be cute. A frog on a lily pad.
Wild critters.
Wild critters. Yes. Uh-oh, Karen. Karen and I are going to be having a discussion because now my brain's going a million miles an hour.
There we go.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's them.
Yeah, it's them.
Deer, bear,
Yeah.
mushrooms. What?
Mushrooms are really popular right now.
Are they?
Yeah, they are trending. You're seeing them on everything. Fabric. I mean, they're everywhere. Like toadstool type mushrooms and mushrooms and mushrooms are popular.
Mushrooms are popular. Well, they were popular before.
Missing half an ear is a fixed feral. Well, we had one at the barn that was missing half of an ear. And he always looked like he'd just gone through the mill. But he was the most cuddly thing. He was far from feral. But he was definitely an old beat up tomcat. All right, so we have to spin that wheel, my son.
Jeez, I gotta get it open here.
Hey, my hair doesn't look like a helmet today.
Do I have it here?
I dug in my daughter's stash of hair care supplies and I found this smoothing gel.
Smoothing gel?
Yeah. So I played with that this morning. So now my hair doesn't look like a helmet. Karen Knox. Karen, I'm so glad you enjoy them. We do. We have a lot of fun doing them. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
How come the wheel's not coming up? Oh.
It's already up.
1 second.
It's the face palm. You missed the face palm.
Oh, I'm gonna move this over a bit. There we go.
I spent 5 minutes this morning on Facebook Reels, and I found this video that was captioned, if my friend is not like this, I don't want her. And I was crying. I laughed so hard. It was just priceless. If you get a chance, if you spot one that's titled that way, brace yourself. It's pretty funny.
Oh, kind of like the one with what my guardian angel looks like.
Yeah. I know what mine looks like. Like she's late for a meeting.
So we got 201 people on here.
Yay!
Yay!
201. That's awesome.
That's a good number. All right.
So Renee's he's got you all loaded up, 201 people. Just to reiterate, we've got 3 giveaways. There is an art stuff bag in there. We filled it up with a bunch of art goodies and some little odds and sods that we like to send out to everybody. But there's also a nice little 3-brush set of Dynasty Water Lily. And those are going out to 3 of you today. So the approximate value is about $35 per bag, which is nice. These are items that come to us from various sponsors that are given to us and donated or sent to us for whatever reason. And we just like to share the wealth. So we're making sure that everybody gets something fun. And the art stuff bags, well, those are just fun things that I put together here in the studio from time to time. And we just fill them up with a bunch of those donated goodies, and we hope you enjoy them. I know that we get great response. People send us messages and whatnot telling us how much they enjoy getting that Happy Mail. So 3 of you are getting Happy Mail in the next week or so.
And off she goes.
Off she goes. Let's see.
And the first one is... Jeff and Caroline Myers.
Oh, right on. Carolyn Myers. There is a long delay before it shows up on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Carolyn Myers. And I will tell you this. We are always sending out Happy Mail, either for the membership group or for the Facebook Lives. And from time to time, some of them are not claimed. And so after 2 weeks, if they haven't claimed them, we put them back into the bin and we use them for later drawings. And to make sure that you get your goodies, please send us an email through the message system on my website. There's a little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the homepage. Click on that, send us a message with your shipping information, and we'll get your goodies out to you. If we don't have your shipping information, we can't mail it.
And number 2.
And somebody asked me the other day, how do we get in on the drawings? Well, that's simple. All you have to do is share the stream, hit it with a like button, hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel if you're watching us from there, and just in general, participate. Let us know you're here. Send us a comment, send us a question, whatever. Linda Griffith, right on. Linda Griffith, make sure you send us your shipping information, lovey, so we can get your goodies out to you.
Forgot how to make an H.
An H.
An H.
Okay.
Yeah. Lowercase h. I forgot how to do it.
Okay.
Don't ask me how. I just...
I was going to ask, were you trying to cursive write again?
I know how to do it in cursive. I was trying to actually print it.
Oh, gotcha.
Had a small brain fart.
Okay, we'll go with that.
It was a small brain fart. Uh-huh. Number 3.
Oh my gosh.
I can't see the chat right now because I got the wheel cover in it. But.
Yeah. They're pretty quiet at the moment.
And Miss Paula R.
Paula Runsdahl. There's something, glue or something stuck on my fingernail. Here, it's driving me insane.
Paula Runsdahl. She hasn't won in a long time.
No, she hasn't. That's awesome. So before we go, I wanted to say thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it when you come and join us every Saturday. Hopefully we're giving you content and projects that you're enjoying. And if you're not, we're open to suggestions. We would love to hear what you'd like to paint. So don't be afraid to send us off a message. You can use that message system on my website. It comes directly to me, so you'll be able to get a response. It does get busy on there from time to time, so if I don't get back to you right away, bear with me. So thanks again for joining us. Hopefully you have enjoyed today in doing this tag. Join us next Saturday, same time, same bat channel. We're here every Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And join us to paint the watered color daffodils. We're going to have some fun with that. It's mixed media. The pattern is available on the website. Also, go and have a look around for the secret coupon code. We put one up every month, so they just change in value. That's also, go and check for that. And in the meantime, we love you, and please stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.
What's the last one?
Don't forget to pet your dog.
Pet your dog.